Good afternoon. I appreciate your time and thank you for watching. On military, the top brass in the military seem to have abandoned Keir Starmer and his Labour government because of the issues with the political prosecution of soldiers that were serving in Northern Ireland at the height of the Troubles in the 1970s. So that's what I want to discuss with you today. I'm going to bring up a few bits and pieces to try and give you a bit of context. The Northern Ireland Legacy Act was brought in, I think it was brought into law in 2023. Here we go. The Northern Ireland Troubles Legacy and Reconciliation Act, the Legacy Act, is a 2023 law that aims to provide a form of immunity from prosecution for Troubles-related offences in Northern Ireland to draw a line under the past. However, the Act was met with significant opposition and it was found to be incompatible with human rights legislation by some courts, namely the ECHR. As a result, the government has introduced a new Troubles Bill to repeal the 2023 Act and replace it with a new system that includes a reformed Legacy Commission, information sharing with Irish authorities, and protections for veterans, at least on paper. The Legacy Act, the original Act that was brought in 2023 under the Tories, essentially what happened is the Irish government went cap in hand to the ECHR and got them to rule that it was incompatible with human rights legislation. Essentially, the ECHR, and also it would be the Human Rights Act that was brought in 1998, which incorporated many aspects of the ECHR into the wider body of British law. So that's the context here, first and foremost. We've had 9 four-star generals write a letter to the Labour government now. I'll put their names on the screen in a moment or so. And essentially they're saying as a threat to national security, the Legacy Act. And I would agree, if you're prosecuting our soldiers for following orders and you're bringing in new legislation and retroactively applying it to historical cases 50 or 60 years ago, why would any soldier, why would any sailor, why would any airman ever want to be in the military? Not only you're treated like a dog's body, you're torn away from your families, you get posted all around the world. Why would you do that? What thanks would you get? You get prosecuted for your troubles, so why would you bother? Because you can't count on. And what's to say, when we get another government in 20 or 30 years, what's to say they're not going to do the same to the veterans from Iraq and Afghanistan? What's to say they won't do that? This is an excerpt from the letter from these generals that has been sent to the Prime Minister. Having held the honour of leading the United Kingdom's armed forces, we do not speak lightly. Yet at Armistice Day, we feel bound to warn the government's Northern Ireland Troubles Bill and the legal activism surrounding it risks weakening the moral foundations and operational effectiveness and readiness, I presume, of the forces for which the nation depends. This is lawfare and a direct threat to national security. Be clear, those who serve in Northern Ireland do not seek immunity, they simply seek fairness. A recognition that the fundamental difference between a legitimate authority, i.e. following orders, and illegitimate violence. To erase that distinction weakens the moral authority of the state. Completely agree. What essentially is happening here is we've got lawyers using the Human Rights Act 1998, another reason to repeal it, and the ECHR to argue for historical wrongs that this legislation, after being brought into British law, they can retroactively go back. That shouldn't be allowed to happen. And then we've got the absolute farce of lefty politicians in the House of Commons actually attacking the MOD for giving a defence to these veterans from Northern Ireland. So we're going to play this clip from the fruit and nut case that is Sir Keir Starmer.
So, Mr. Speaker, can the Secretary of State explain how it was determined and who determined that Soldier F qualified for Ministry of Defence funding and what precedent this decision was based on, particularly given reports?
Just to be clear, Soldier F was recently acquitted of any wrongdoing and justice was served in that particular case. That cannot be a given that's going to happen in the future. I support our soldiers, I support our military, on today being Armistice Day, and every day over to Sir Keir and his leftist governments.
That he received double the financial support typically afforded to a single defendant. If he was eligible for legal aid, that avenue was open for him. Instead, £4.3 million of public money was spent defending a man who, in his own evidence to the Southern Inquiry, admitted his lethal role in the state-sanctioned murders on Bloody Sunday. Does the Secretary...
I want to be very clear with what she's saying here. This isn't a fallen regime. This isn't like the Nuremberg trials in the 1940s, where you could argue following orders isn't a defence. Alright? The regime that authorised what she's harping on about in the House of Commons is still the regime we're under now. Alright, the same crown, the same parliament, and the same parliamentary system. The soldiers were following orders. This is not like for like, this is completely different. So you need to shut up and accept it.
Does the Secretary of State believe that this represents an equal and impartial application of justice, or a two-tiered system designed to shield the British state from accountability?
On the first point that she raises, it is right and proper that the Ministry of Defence provides support to any veteran who is facing a criminal justice process. I think we would expect nothing less.
So that is the leftist MP. Now we're going to look at a based MP, my MP, Sarah Poachin for Runcorn and Helsby. Shout out to Runcorn. Woohoo. Here we go. Here's what she's got to say. Thank God she supports the soldiers.
The treatment of our brave Northern Ireland veterans by this government and previous governments is a national disgrace. I speak from the heart as someone whose father served in Northern Ireland at the height of the Troubles. He was prepared to die to protect every single one of us in this room, either directly or indirectly. We should not be having this debate, Madam Chairman, a debate about honour and patriotism being rewarded with betrayal by our government. The IRA want to rewrite history. It is shameful that the British government is allowing hundreds of our Special Forces veterans to be investigated over incidents that occurred decades ago, not yet, decades ago in Northern Ireland to appease the Irish government. These courageous men should be enjoying their hard-earned retirement, not facing prosecution for defending the British people from IRA terrorists. The same British people who value these soldiers and who are outraged at the unfair and unjust action of this government. Why would a British government of any political leaning include this commitment in their manifesto? These brave soldiers were doing nothing more than carrying out orders from the government of the day, as they are trained to do without fear or question. They are fiercely loyal to their regiment, their government, and their monarch. Many were awarded bravery medals, signed off by our late monarch, Queen Elizabeth II, and yet this government is now looking to renege on this. They faced extreme danger on our behalf. They were fearless on our behalf. They would have sacrificed their own lives for us, and hundreds did. Many of the so-called IRA victims killed were murderers and terrorists. How on earth can anyone stand up to defend these people over our special forces? And yet, this government rewards our bravest service personnel by bringing these prosecutions. They reward them by threatening legal action, by putting them through the stress of a trial, by ruining their lives when they deserve nothing but our respect, our support, and our gratitude. These prosecutions should not be allowed to happen. Why would we not defend those that defended us? Those that put their life on the line for us? Well, I will defend them, and my party will stand up for them. I will not stand by and remain silent. I will speak for them. I am humbled by what they did for us, and I know that the British people feel the same.
So we'll leave that one there. I agree with my MP. I support our Army, our Air Force, and our Royal Navy. I do not support this government. This should not be happening. Let me know if you're in Northern Ireland. Do you agree with my MP? Do you agree with the 4-star generals that have written to Keir Starmer? Do you think this is a national outrage and a disgrace? Once again, the Labour Party, Lord Hermer, and Keir Starmer, they're all putting international priorities, the EU relationships with Ireland and the ECHR above the interests of our armed forces and, most importantly, the British people. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up, give me a like and share, maybe subscribe. Comment below, do you think I'm overstating things or do you think I've got it right? I appreciate your time as always, take it easy, and thank you for watching.